Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. The clouds stopped the sun from shining through on the village hidden in the leaves. It was a sign that rain was coming, and for one little boy that was fine. In a rundown apartment which was provided by the Hokage sat one lonely boy by the name of Naruto Uzumaki. He looked around the darkened room and could not figure out why he had woken up. He glanced at the clock that was on his bedside stand, if you could really call it that, and noticed that it was only 4:30 in the morning. He groaned. This was becoming a regular thing for him. During the day he would train so hard that he literally fell asleep when his head hit the pillow. However, these blissful moments only lasted for a couple of hours before his nightmares woke him up again. He sat in the dark room with his knees pulled up to his chest and thought about why he bothered to go on every single day. Every day he put on his perfect mask of happiness on, but at times you could see small cracks in them. It was obvious that everybody in the village hated him. Yes, he had graduated to become a genin and even had a team, but they were no different from the villagers. Yeah, sure, they did not glare at him, but hate was evident in the venom that they spat put for him. Heck, even his Jonin sensei wasn't even bothered. He just wished there was one person that actually acknowledged him as a person and not the demon fox that was sealed in him. He groaned again and headed towards the little bathroom. He stood in front of the mirror and looked back at his reflection. Blonde hair that had been left to grow fell on a tan face. Big blue eyes devoid of any emotion stared back at him. He had learned very early in his life to mask his emotion perfectly, and now it was second nature to him. When he felt sad, he would bury it deep down. When he felt angry, he would take out his frustration in training. The one feeling that was constant in his life was the loneliness. Even if he was surrounded by a million of people, that feeling would not go, because it was the people around him that caused it in the first place. One more day, Naruto, he thought to himself, one more day. It was kind of a mantra for him, to wake up and feel like going on. If it was not for this, he would have gave up ages ago and rid the village of their biggest burden. His shoulders dropped at the thought of facing people again, but hey, the show must go on. One more day, he whispered to himself and got into the shower. He was shocked out of his thoughts for just one moment when the cold water hit his skin. He didn't complain about the water as he was used to it. It was one of the ways the landlord got his revenge on the demon child. He got out of the shower and went to his so-called bedroom. He opened the closet and got out his orange jumpsuit. He looked at it distastefully. He wanted to dress better, but then again, none of the shops would sell him any clothes. This ugly thing was the only thing that was sold to him, and they charged him extra for it, but who was he to complain? After all, he was just the demon child. He got dressed and headed to the kitchen area. He opened the cupboard and took out the packet of instant ramen and boiled some water and waited for the ramen to cook. Ramen, everyone wondered he ate so much ramen. They never once thought to ask him, even though he would never tell them that he could not afford anything apart from this. Even so, he was glad that he liked ramen and it was good for his fast metabolism. He had his breakfast and walked out the apartment, making sure to lock it. He then checked his seals to make sure that they were intact. He had created these seals himself, allowing his apartment to be protected when he was out. On more than one occasion he came home to a demolished building. However much he didn't like the apartment, it was still his home. He looked around. There was no one on the streets yet, and he was thankful for this. Lately his mask was starting to crack, and he wasn't sure that he could keep up this facade of being happy and idiotic. In fact, he was far from idiotic. He only acted like this to get some attention, but that usually backfired. Today is going to be one of those days, he muttered to himself and started to walk towards the training ground where he usually met his team. He was upset and angry and full of rage, and he knew it. He wanted to calm his mind, and what better way than training? He knew that none of his teammate would be about his so-called teammates, he thought. Sakura. He didn't really like her. Yeah, he asked her out all the time, but it was more to keep his act up rather than anything else. The only thing that she cared about was getting the attention of that stuck-up Uchiha. It made him sick how she would treat the Uchiha with love and respect even though he didn't care or want it, and the way she treated him like trash not worth talking to. Then there was the Uchiha. Naruto thought that he could be friends with him as they went through the same pain and loneliness. Oh, but how he was wrong. He thinks that he is so much better. Yeah, right. That's something to laugh about. If Naruto wanted, he could defeat the Uchiha at the blink of an eye, but sadly he didn't want to give the villagers and the council more reasons to hate him. Last but not least, there was his sensei. Honestly, he didn't know what to make of him. Yeah, he didn't hate him and glare at him, but what he did was much worse. He just outright ignores him. His sensei gives more attention to the Uchiha and the pink banshee than him. He goes through this every day, yet he doesn't say anything. He suffers and keeps the hurt inside of him and carries on with the mask in place. He reached the bridge and started some light exercises. The morning started to turn light, and for Naruto it indicated another day of hate and insults. He stopped his training and sat down against the bridge. He yawned. All these sleepless nights and waking up early was starting to get to him. He felt tired, contributed by the other factors. The first one to arrive was Uchiha, scowl firmly in place. Today he didn't feel like greeting him, he just kept quiet, closed his eyes and sighed. He could tell that Uchiha was looking at him, trying to figure out what was wrong. Well, tough. He can go to hell. For once I don't feel like putting my mask on. Right as if on cue came the pink banshee. You could hear her screech from all the way here. God, she was loud. She stopped right next to the Uchiha, who was still looking at Naruto with a confused expression. What the hell is up with the Dobi? He never is this quiet. Sasuke thought to himself. Hey Sasuke-kun, do you want to get some lunch with me after this? Sakura asked in her usual fangirly way. No. Sasuke had other things to do apart from becoming strong to kill Itachi. He had to figure out what the hell was up with the Dobi, who unknowingly had become his rival best friend, although he would not admit it. Sakura looked disappointed but shrugged it off. Naruto was aware of this. He sat where he was still and silent. What is the purpose of my life? Thought Naruto. He tried to come up with some answers, but his mind went blank. That one question had been bugging him ever since they had come back from the land of waves. He had stated that his purpose was to become a tool for his master. Did Konoha want him to become a tool too? Did they not see that he was human with feeling, dreams, and aspirations? No, obviously, they only saw the demon inside of him and nothing more. Where is that good-for-nothing idiot? Sakura asked Sasuke, referring to Naruto. He flinched ever so slightly that even the trained eyes of the Anbu couldn't detect it. Sasuke looked at her as if asking her, are you stupid? He was sick and tired of her annoying face. The way she treated Naruto infuriated him. He looked away towards Naruto. She followed his gaze and was stunned to see the blonde-haired ninja sitting against the bridge railing. She noticed that he had his eyes closed as if he was sleeping. How dare he not greet her and Sasuke-kun? What the hell was he playing at? Sasuke-kun is a way better ninja than he ever will be, and he should be respected by all. She slowly went over and stood in front of him. Naruto, you idiot, you are late, and how dare you not greet me and Sasuke-kun? She screamed at him. You finally noticed, huh? Naruto asked with eyes closed and steel in his voice. Sakura was shocked at the tone of voice that he used. Naruto was sick and tired of them all, and he just wanted to be left alone. He didn't even understand why he came here in the first place. Yeah, he did. One more day. From the tree line, Kakashi watched the interaction between his students. Something was wrong. He knew it. Naruto never acted like this before. What the hell are you talking about, Baka? Would have been better if you weren't here at all. She screeched like a banshee with more venom in her voice than she would like. That was nothing new to him, but today his mask had cracks that were really big. And frankly, he had enough of taking crap. He thought they were his friends, but once again he was proven wrong. Sakura, leave me alone. Before I say something that I regret, Naruto informed her calmly. There was a raging battle going on inside where his emotions were trying to break his barriers. Sakura, Sasuke and Kakashi noticed that he had dropped the suffix, chan. What's wrong, Dobi? Why are you acting like this all of a sudden? Honestly, even though Naruto was feeling like crap, he didn't want to hurt his so-called friends. Why, you dumb idiot, why don't you just d? She was cut short when Sasuke yanked her away from Naruto. She stumbled and fell confused. Sasuke was shocked at what he saw face to face with him. His usually blue eyes, bright and radiating happiness, was devoid and empty. Naruto's eyes were the same as his, every day when he looked in the mirror at his own reflection. His tan face showed nothing and the big foxy grin was gone, the one that could put the sun to shame and reach even the darkest corner of the darkness. Even mine, thought Sasuke. Naruto averted his eyes, not wanting the Uchiha to see something that he didn't want them to see. Dobi, what's wrong? Sasuke asked in his monotone voice, even though his mind was screaming with concern for his blonde friend. Why care so suddenly? Naruto replied with venom. He didn't want their pity. They only notice him now because he was not annoying and loud, but the reality was that they couldn't care less if he lived or died. Sakura was fuming. Her precious Sasuke-kun was talking to that baka and concerned about him, and Naruto had the guts to question him. How dare he? Naruto, answer Sasuke-kun now. Sakura spat out. Naruto looked at her with disgust. They stood shocked still. However, Sakura was not backing down. She would make Naruto see that he was beneath her. Sasuke-kun, you should consider yourself lucky that he considers someone like you a friend and is concerned about you. She felt a shiver run up her spine and could feel her chest tightening as Naruto released some of his killer intent. Sasuke looked at Naruto, even he was starting to get a bit scared now. I have never seen him like this before. Something really big must be bothering him. Every ninja present in the village looked towards the training ground that they could feel the killer intent coming from and wondered who was it. Did you feel that, guys? Kiba asked Team 8 and 10 who were doing joint training. They all nodded. They had never felt that kind of killer intent before. Whoever it was must be really strong, they all thought. Their senseis shared a look. They had not felt that kind of killer intent since their beloved fourth Hokage sacrificed his life on the day of the Kyuubi attack. The Hokage felt it too, and he would have to have a talk with his Naru-chan later when he calmed down. Hinata could not stop fidgeting. This felt like Naruto. She was worried for him. Lately he had become depressed. Usually they would meet up and talk about things, but ever since the wave mission he had been avoiding her. She didn't have a chance to ask him about what was bothering him as her team was kept busy. She prayed that he was okay. Naruto. Kakashi had decided it was finally time to intervene. How could he have never noticed that Naruto was this strong? Maybe if I paid him more attention then this would have never happened. Naruto glared at Kakashi with hate. Finally the lazy one decided to intervene, he thought to himself. What did he think I was going to hurt his precious Uchiha and Pink Banshee? To say that Kakashi was shocked was an understatement. He was shit scared, the only other person to glare like that at his enemy died 12 years ago. Naruto calmed down, his killer intent disappearing. He took his time glaring at everyone, one of them. I do not want to see any of you ever again. He spat out and walked away from the training ground. All three of them stood there glued to the floor as they watched Naruto's frame receding. What the hell happened? They all thought. Naruto was sat atop the Hokage monument looking out to the village. Respect, trust, hope, and joy, these were the things that Naruto was denied ever since he was born. He knew why they treated him like that, but how was it his fault that the fourth Hokage sealed the nine-tailed demon fox in him? The breeze ruffled his golden locks, exposing his blue eyes that were filled with hate for the village. Why should I care for this village when no one cares for me, he thought. My dream to become Hokage, to protect what? This village. The people in it. My friends. I don't even know what I want anymore. He could feel a presence beside him, but he didn't look up. He already knew who was there. Naru-chan. The third Hokage said in a kind voice. He was probably the one person that really cared for him as a human. Naruto appreciated what the old man did and still does for him, but he was the Hokage, he didn't have the time to spend with Naruto. Why does it hurt so much, old man? Naruto asked without looking away. He tried to hide his emotion but was struggling. He was aware of the sting in his eyes as the tears threatened to fall, but he wouldn't let them. He hadn't cried in such a long time. He'd also learned from an early age that crying didn't help at all, in fact it made things worse. The Hokage walked towards him, not fully understanding what Naruto meant. Is he hurt? He sat down next to Naruto and examined him. He doesn't seem to be hurt physically. Where does it hurt, Naru-chan? The third Hokage had an idea as to what Naruto might be talking about, but he still wanted to know for sure. Naruto was not hurting physically, but emotionally he was at the breaking point. Right here, Gigi. Naruto pointed at his chest, right on the spot where his heart was. A single tear rolled down his cheek. He had a big lump in his throat as big as an apple, making it even difficult for him to speak. He tried to contain his emotion but to no avail. The Hokage cupped his face and turned him to look at him. He wiped his tears with the swipe of his thumb. After choking back the sobs that were racking his body, Naruto calmed down a bit. The Hokage waited for Naruto to continue. It was no use trying to ask what had happened because he knew that when Naruto was ready he would tell him. I can't hate the Gigi, as much as I try I can't bring myself to hate them, Naruto continued. Yeah, he had told Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi-sensei that he hated them, but deep down he knew that he didn't and would always protect them. But right now he needed to sort through his feelings. Somewhere deep in his mind he felt that even his Gigi had done wrong to him. He needed answers and he would get them. What is the purpose of my life, Gigi? The Hokage was stunned to hear this. What is it that Naruto was asking? What do you mean, Naru-chan? He asked, not sure how to answer this question. Was the boy so broken that he needed a purpose to live for? How had it gone on this far? Naruto was never like this. He was a happy child, always bringing in sunshine with that smile. Naruto had something that no one else had, yet here today the boy was asking him the purpose of his existence. You heard me, Gigi. Why am I still alive? What is the point of my existence? Naruto had steel in his voice and that worried the Hokage very much. I am a Jinchuriki, Gigi, the most hated and feared. Is my life's purpose to contain the Kyuubi or become a tool for this village? Naruto didn't know what he wanted to hear from the Hokage. All he wanted was for someone to acknowledge him as a person and not the demon that they so much feared. You are not a mindless and unemotional tool, Naruto, the Hokage said firmly. He wanted to make sure that Naruto understood that he would not be used as tool for the village, contrary to what others believed. The Hokage continued. You don't need a purpose to live, Naru-chan, but if you are looking for one, then let me remind you that your purpose is to become the best Hokage this village has seen. This surprised Naruto greatly. Out of all the things that he was expecting, it was not this. Every time that he would shout at the top of his lungs that he wanted to become Hokage, people would laugh. How can you say that, Gigi? I am a monster, Naruto retorted darkly. You are not a monster, Naruto Uzumaki. You will be a great leader and already are a great person. I have known you all your life, Naru-chan, and I know that you value the bonds that you have made above all else. I know that you would not hesitate to give your life to protect the people precious to you. His voice softened at that. The first time that he had laid his eyes on Naruto, he knew that a legend was born, and it pained him to see him like. But the way that the villagers treated him, and sometimes even his friends, it was no wonder that Naruto was feeling like this. He had to help the boy to pull through this. He was also aware that somehow even he was responsible for this. You know, Naruto, your friends love you very much, they just haven't realized it yet, well, some anyway. The Hokage informed him. Yes, it was true, the changes that were occurring in the younger generation because of Naruto was astounding. Love. Did my parents love me? Who were they? Why did they leave me? If my parents left me, Gigi, how can trust that my friends love me? No one loves a monster, Gigi. Naruto was not convinced. How could anyone ever love him? He was a monster, and if his friends found out then they would hate him too. Love was not to be trusted. If his parents did love him, why did they make him a Jinchuriki and make him suffer all this? He didn't even know who his parents were. Did they hate him so much that the old man would not say anything about them? Naru-chan, we've been through this already, but the Hokage was cut short when he noticed the killer intent and the hardened expression on Naruto's face. Who were my parents? Naruto spat out. He was getting tired of this waiting game. He wanted to know everything. Why did his parents leave him? Why was he left to suffer? Right now he was angry and he wanted a target to direct all his rage at. If the Hokage was not careful, he might be on the receiving end. No more lies and secrets, old man, I want to know and now. He had made his decisions and he was not backing down. The Hokage knew that he was fighting a losing battle. Naruto could be stubborn, but he realized that he owed an explanation. Maybe it was better he told him now. If you wish to know, then come to my office, Naruto. With that, the Hokage stood and sunshined to the Hokage tower, leaving Naruto. He stood up slowly, his mind still wondering whether or not he was ready to hear the answers. But he had made his mind up. He walked down the Hokage mountain using the stairs at the side. He was deep in thought. What would he do with the information anyway? He wanted a way out, to be free to be himself without all this hate and glares. Without all this hate, I could leave the village, he thought to himself, but where would I go? Can I really leave this village? As much as I hate to admit it, I can't just leave. As he was walking through the village, the Inoshika-cho team was headed his way. He walked right past them without even greeting them. All three of them stood still. Ever since that they had become friend with the blonde, there wasn't a time when he didn't greet them with his goofy smile. Hey Naruto, what's up? Ino asked. Naruto stopped his stride and looked back but remained silent. Really, he thought, I can't be bothered with this at the moment. He sighed. Shikamaru focused on his hardened expression. His eyes that usually screamed of life were distant and cold. I wonder what is up with him. He thought Naruto was never like this. Choji was too busy munching on the bag of chips that he had. Hey, did Sasuke-kun beat you again in a spar? Ino chided. Naruto had daggers in his eyes as he narrowed at Ino. She started to laugh. Everyone knew that there was rivalry going on between them and Naruto usually lost and he could get a bit childish about it. Naruto grit his teeth at that comment. Why in hell did they all think that the Uchiha was so high and mighty? He had no idea. He didn't feel like answering her. It was a secret that Naruto used to be on the receiving end of Sakura and Ino's obsession over Sasuke. Usually he was the one getting the beating whenever the Uchiha used to upset them. Why, he never knew. Oh come on Naruto, stop being a baby, you can't beat him anyway. Ino exclaimed happily with stars in her eyes thinking about Sasuke. Naruto was clenching his fist so tight that his knuckles were white. Nobody but Shikamaru noticed the little signs. You know, Ino, you can take everything you said and shove it up where the sun doesn't shine, Naruto spat out with hatred. 6 pairs of eyes widened in surprise. Ino got over the shock and launched herself at Naruto. How dare he insult her like that, the good-for-nothing blonde? Who does he think he is? However, she realized she was nowhere near Naruto as 2 arms had a firm grasp on her waist. She raised her eyebrows questioningly at Shikamaru, who still had not let go of her. Naruto stood there distant and cold. He turned around and continued his trek to the Hokage tower. Naruto is really upset about something. Choji suddenly spoke up, startling the other two who were staring at the retreating Naruto. Wah! How do you know? You were too busy eating, Choji! Exclaimed Ino. Choji shook his head in disappointment and started to walk away. Ino was very much surprised at that. She sighed. What did she do now? He's right, there is something bothering Naruto. Shikamaru sighed and continued. Choji is upset because as a friend you should have noticed like we did, not patronize him like you did. He is disappointed that you don't consider him your friend. Shikamaru could read Choji like the back of his hand and knew exactly what his friend was thinking. However, Naruto's behavior was worrying even the lazy genius. He had never seen Naruto this cold and distant before. Shikamaru walked off trying to catch up with Choji, leaving Ino to ponder. As she headed slowly towards her home, she thought about all that had happened. She did consider Naruto her friend and she trusted him. How could she have not noticed that he was upset, and on top of that she had made things worse? She walked straight into something hard and landed on her rear. Oomph! She looked up and saw that she had ran straight into none other than her nemesis Sakura, and with her was Sasuke. Sakura was Naruto's teammate. She would know what was wrong with him. She got up and dusted herself. Sorry, forehead, didn't see you there. She shuffled her feet, not sure how she should ask her about Naruto. She didn't want Sasuke to think that she was interested in him. Hey forehead, we just met Naruto, what's wrong with him? Sasuke looked at her. He had been worrying about his friend, but he would never show that. I don't know, Ino pig, he was really mean to Sasuke-kun and me, Sakura replied in a whiny voice, making it out as if Naruto was to blame for all the things. Yeah, he was mean to me as well. You know what we should do? Sakura's eyebrows rose questioningly. We should give him a daily dose of pain, then he will know who he is messing with. Ino smirked at her ingenious plan. There was no way that Naruto could beat two of the best kunoichi. Sakura nodded in agreement. Sasuke looked at them disgusted. They call themselves his friends. Naruto finally reached the Hokage Tower without any more incident. He was furious that the people that he called friends failed to realize that something was bothering him, and instead of trying to help him, they were too busy throwing insult at him. Like the villagers didn't do that enough. Right now he just wanted the old man to tell him the truth about his parents so that he could at least feel connected to the village if they were from there. The way he was feeling right now, he could just crawl onto a hole and die. He knew that it would not matter to anyone, even if he did, no one cared about him. He opened the door and walked inside without waiting for an answer. As soon as he entered, he noticed that Team 8 was also present. They were having some sort of a discussion. He ignored them and sat down on the couch, eyes averted. Really, he did not want to talk to anyone. He was sure he would say something that he would regret later. Hey, look what the cat dragged in, Kiba sneered. Hinata and Shino looked at Naruto. He sat there not looking at them. Kurenai whacked Kiba on the head to shut him up. He, however, didn't take heed. It's the great loser who wants to become the Hokage. Kiba laughed. He loved to tease Naruto. Usually he could get a response out of the blonde. They would banter for a bit and then have a full-blown argument. But today the blonde was not opening his mouth. He was deep in thought. Kiba Inazaka, you have been dismissed, the Hokage said sternly. Team 8 exited the office, leaving an indifferent Naruto and a worried Hokage behind. The Hokage sighed. He didn't want Naruto to find out just yet who his parents were. After all, they did have many enemies within and outside of the village, but the current situation did not help. He had to tell him the truth so that Naruto knew that he was part of this village as much as everyone else. Naruto remained seated on the couch, not really paying attention. The Hokage cleared his throat. What do you want to know, Naru-chan? The Hokage tried one more time to get out of telling Naruto. If I just answer his questions as vaguely as possible. How about the whole truth, Gigi? Naruto said dejectedly. He was getting tired of all this. Of not knowing about his parentage, of his so-called friends' insults, of the villagers that he wanted to protect with his life, of the stares, of the hate directed towards him, of all the pain that he goes through every single day of his life, and mostly the demons sealed inside of him. He just wanted to know the truth behind everything. Well, if you want to know, then I guess I can't deny it. The Hokage sighed, trying to make sense where he should start, but in the end he decided to tell him everything. He looked at Naruto, who was staring at the picture of the fourth Hokage intently. You know that 12 years the nine-tailed demon fox attacked our village, don't you? The Hokage asked him. Naruto nodded. How he could forget that it was the worst day of his life. Every single year he was given a reminder of the attack by the villagers. Well, the fourth could not defeat it, therefore it was sealed into you. The Hokage paused, remembering that dreadful night when the attack took place. Why me? Naruto whispered. He could not for the life of him think why did it have to be him put of all the children, although he didn't blame the fourth because Naruto idolized him, he just didn't understand the rationale of why he was chosen. Naruto was still staring at the picture, there was something about it that drew his attention to it. The Hokage knew that Naruto would stare at the picture every time he came to the office. You don't ask anything of your subordinate that you would not do yourself, the Hokage answered. Naruto had a confused look on his face. That were the words of the fourth Hokage when I asked him why you, the Hokage sighed as he recalled that particular conversation. What do you mean? Naruto was getting frustrated. All he wanted was answers, not some brain teaser. He just didn't have the energy to put things in place and figure it out. You look a lot like him, you, Naruto, although you have your mother personality. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the picture. Now that he thought about, he did look like a mini version of the fourth. He had the same blonde hair and blue eyes with the tan skin. Duh, how could I have missed this? Naruto thought to himself. His eyes widened suddenly at the thought that his father was the one to condemn him to this life. Take that, people, I am not a nobody anymore, I am the son of a Hokage. His face lit up and he smiled, a real smile. Don't hate him, Naruto, Minato and Kushina loved you very so much that they both died protecting you, their precious son. Yes, it is true that he sealed the demon in you to save the village, but would you hold it against him? The Hokage asked him, hoping to Kami that Naruto would forgive Minato for what he did. What would you if you were faced with a situation like this, Naruto, as a Hokage who swore to protect his village and everyone that is precious to him? The Hokage asked. Naruto didn't answer. His mind was thinking back to a conversation he had with a boy about true strength and precious people. The Hokage looked at him worriedly. Naruto's face was impassive. Naruto, the Hokage asked. I don't hate him, Gigi. Naruto finally responded after what felt like an eternity with the biggest grin on his face. That was the old Naruto, the one that didn't let things get him down. He is my hero, and I understand why he did it, and I'm just glad that I know who they are, I can place them in my heart. Naruto continued. A single tear rolled down his cheek, but he still continued, his voice cracking and laden with emotion. I know that I will never see them, but I know that they loved me. Naruto broke down and started to sob. The Hokage came over and pulled him into a hug. Naruto sobbed into his chest until his sobs became whimpers. Finally he found out who his parents were and that they did not abandon him. In fact, they loved him so much that they sacrificed their life for him in the village. Now that was a true hero. Naruto's resolve hardened. He would become the Hokage and protect his precious people, just like his father did. He, Naruto the Kyuubi container, would continue the fourth's legacy. Thank you, Gigi. Naruto drew back from the Hokage and wiped his tears away. He looked at the Hokage with determination. The Hokage smiled at him. Maybe he would be all right now. Naruto and the Hokage spent hours talking about his parents. But remember, Naruto, you can't tell anyone about your parentage yet, as I have told you, your mother and father had many enemies both within the village and outside. The Hokage said sternly. Naruto nodded. He felt content knowing about his parents, something that he had not felt in quite a while. Naru-chan, the Hokage asked uneasily. Naruto replied, absent-mindedly looking at the picture of his parents. Your friends care about you, don't you think they should know about your secret? He asked. I don't know, Gigi, the way that they treat me makes me think otherwise. Naruto hesitated. Was he ready to tell his friends that he was the Kyuubi container, and what would be their reaction? But sooner or later they would find out, and better he tell them than someone else. You know, Gigi, I think I will. His smile faltered, but he had made his mind up and he would go through with that. He now had a reason to go on, and not just for one more day but many more to come. He just hoped that his friends accepted him. Susuke had finally managed to ditch Sakura and was walking towards the Uchiha district. However, his attention was divided because he could not get Naruto out of his thought. What could possibility be up with him? Why was he so angry? Sasuke was starting to get frustrated trying to figure it out, but he was just going round and round in a circle. His head was throbbing from the pain, and all these questions and trying to find the answers were not helping it. He was so deep in thought that he bumped into something solid. "What the hell?" he exclaimed. He got up and dusted the dirt off from his clothes. He wasn't surprised when he noticed that the person he had bumped into was none other than Kakashi. Well, this is bound to happen, what with the guy having his face buried in that damn book. "Why hello there, Sasuke," Kakashi greeted. Sasuke frowned. Honestly, why did it have to happen to him all the time? He didn't want the attention that people so freely lavished on him, yet it seemed he could not avoid it. "Where are you headed?" Kakashi asked. Sasuke's eyebrows rose, inquiring. Honestly, the whole reason that Kakashi had asked him this question was because he thought that Sasuke was looking for Naruto to settle things with him for insulting him. It wasn't the first time that something like this would happen. Both boys liked to settle their dispute with their fists rather than the mature way. "Home," Sasuke replied monotonously. Sasuke narrowed his eyes suspiciously. Why was Kakashi so interested what and where he went on his day off? Kakashi just smiled, since you couldn't see the man face anyway. "Oh, nothing. Have you seen Naruto by any chance?" Kakashi had looked in all the places that Naruto usually went but failed to find him. He wanted to talk to the blonde about this morning. "No," Sasuke replied. He had been wondering the same thing. He realized one thing, that if Naruto did not want to be found, then he wouldn't. Even though the blonde was loud and annoying, unintentionally he had become Sasuke's friend, no best friend. Naruto was probably the only one that understood him, and they connected on so many different levels. Sasuke started to walk, as did Kakashi, but suddenly Sasuke stopped. Maybe Kakashi knew something. "Hey Kakashi sensei." Kakashi turned around to face Sasuke. He so desperately wanted to ask if Kakashi knew what was wrong with Naruto, because he just could not get that haunting look of Naruto out of his mind, but the Uchiha pride would not allow him. He didn't want anyone to think that he cared. He was an Avenger, and having bonds would make him weak. Kakashi quirked an eyebrow. "Ah, Sasuke, you're worried about Naruto, yet you are afraid to show your concern." "Nothing," Sasuke replied with downcast eyes. "Why can't I just ask him?" "Stupid pride. I don't know what's wrong with him." Kakashi had answered the unasked questions. Sasuke looked at him and silently walked off to brood. Kakashi shrugged and walked towards his destination, namely the memorial stone, where his best friend lay. He stood in front of the stone and made a small prayer. "Hey Obito, sorry for not visiting earlier," Kakashi said to the silent stone. The death of his best friend occurred years ago, but Kakashi was still stuck in the past, unwilling to move forward. "You know that there is something bothering Naruto," he hesitated. "And I think I am somewhat to blame. If only I had paid him more attention, then maybe he would not feel like this." Kakashi paused, recalling this morning and the hate that he had seen in the blonde's eyes. "Sensei would be so disappointed with me, seeing the way that I have treated his son." Kakashi's voice faltered. There was a lump in his throat. He wanted some sort of reassurance, but that was not to be expected. He was talking to a stone after all. His friends are worried about him, especially Hinata. Kakashi chuckled when he recalled Hinata with her flushed face demanding what they had done to him. It took a while for Shino and Kiba and himself to assure her that Naruto would tell when he was ready. He had never seen that side of Hinata, but then again, Naruto could make people do things that they thought they weren't capable of. Sasuke tries to be indifferent, but fails miserably. Kakashi smiled. Sasuke reminded him of his younger self with a one-track mind. He sighed. He was already missing the hyperactive blonde and his antics. "Anyway, I hope Naruto is okay. I'll see you later, Obito." Kakashi was ready to depart when he felt someone approach him. He turned around and was surprised to see Naruto. He stood there waiting patiently for the blonde to reach him. Naruto huffed and puffed, leaning his hands on his knees trying to get his breath back. "You know I looked everywhere for you," Naruto exclaimed, pointing accusingly. Once he caught his breath. Kakashi rose an eyebrow questioningly. Guess should have come here first, Naruto muttered with a pout. Kakashi was taken aback. What was happening? This morning the blonde acted as if he hated everything and everyone, and now he's acting as if nothing happened at all. Before Kakashi could interrogate the blonde any further, he interjected. The boss wants to meet everyone at Training Ground 7 in an hour. Kakashi nodded. This was just a shadow clone. But why did Naruto want to meet everyone? What are you doing? The shadow clone dispelled itself and Kakashi was left alone. Naruto, or more like one of his shadow clones, found Ino, Choji and Shikamaru training with Asuma. The sensei had been informed by an upset Choji about what had happened between Ino and Naruto, and personally he was disappointed. The blonde had never done anything to anyone apart from wanting a bit of attention, but the way that the villagers treated him was not right, and to top it off, the people that he called friends were doing things that would upset the blonde even more. He just hoped that Naruto would not hold this against Ino. As soon as the team saw him approach, they all stopped. Asuma got up from his spot on the grass and waited for Naruto. He was well aware that Naruto was stronger than all of the other genins, and if he wanted to settle things with Ino, then that could be a problem. Ino, on the other hand, remembered what Naruto had said to her and launched herself to punch him. Before her fist could connect with him, he put his hands up in surrender. Hey, I'm just a clone, one hit and poof I go. That shocked Ino into stopping. Troublesome, Shikamaru yawned, and the Naruto clone rolled his eyes. Honestly, Shikamaru, with all the brains you have, you only used that one word. Shikamaru smirked. He had known Naruto from before they went to the academy, but he wasn't about to say anything. The boss wants all lot of you in Training Ground 7 in an hour, the shadow clone informed them, and dispelled itself before Ino's punch could. All four of them looked at each other, one thought running through their mind: when did Naruto become so authoritative? In another part of Konoha, one of Naruto's shadow clone had located Team 8. As soon as Hinata saw Naruto, she rushed towards him and hugged him. Kiba, Shino and Kurene stood with their mouth hanging open. Sure, they knew that Hinata had a crush on Naruto, but when had she become so bold? Naruto-kun, are you okay? The clone nodded and smiled a real smile. But still Hinata was not convinced. Do you want to talk about it? Hinata wanted to make sure that Naruto was okay. He shook his head. She was the only one in their age group that knew of his secret. He told her a while back before they became genin, and since then they had become more close to each other. Hinata became more protective of Naruto and tried her level best in everything. Hey, I'm okay, Hinata, don't worry, he whispered into her ears. He didn't want to let go of her but reluctantly did. Hinata nodded. She knew that when the time was right, Naruto would open up. He wasn't the doby that everyone thought he was. Meet me in Training Ground 7 in an hour, he informed all of them. He looked at Hinata and gave her a reassuring smile before disappearing. Kiba whipped his head left and right. Huh, where did he go? He scratched his head and a bark from Akamaru was heard. Kurene didn't bother to answer him, neither did Shino. Kurene narrowed her eyes at Hinata. I have never seen this side of her, she thought to herself. It seemed as if Naruto and Hinata are quite close to each other, but when? That was just his shadow clone Kiba-kun, Hinata informed him. That left him even more confused. What the heck is a shadow clone? Hey boss, are you gonna play ninja with us? Naruto turned around just in time to see Konohamaru crashing into him. Off. Konohamaru grinned sheepishly. Naruto shook his head. He pushed Konohamaru off of him and stood. No, not today, Kono. I have things to do. The disappointment was evident in his face. Konohamaru treated Naruto like a big brother. He wanted attention from him and approval. Even though he was the Hokage's grandson, Naruto had Konohamaru some of his techniques, such as the sexy jutsu, which people didn't appreciate. Konohamaru has every right to know what I am, Naruto thought to himself. At that moment Moegi and Udon caught up with the pair. They both greeted him. He looked at all three of them. Tell you what, why don't you guys meet me at Training Ground 7 in an hour? Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon had stars in their eyes. Naruto was asking them to meet him at a training ground, maybe he wanted to show them a new jutsu or something. Naruto started to walk away, when he suddenly remembered something. Hey, next time don't crash into me so hard, brat, I could have dispelled, you know. Naruto smirked at the look that he received from the children. Huh? What do you mean, Nisan? Moegi asked innocently. Konohamaru slapped his forehead when the words sank in. He's a shadow clone, Konohamaru exclaimed. He grinned from ear to ear, he was hatching a plan to get Naruto to teach him that jutsu. Imagine what he could with it. He would most definitely won't need to do his homework, he could just get his clone to do it for him. Naruto chuckled. He could see the cogs in Konohamaru's mind working on plan to get him to teach the jutsu. He left the area before Konohamaru and Core could put their plan to action, and then he would really be in trouble. Sakura was walking aimlessly around the village, thinking about her precious Sasuke-kun, not really paying attention. Sakura, said girl jumped and whipped her head round to come face to face with Naruto. She noticed that Naruto had dropped the suffix after her name. She let that go for the moment and waited. She didn't know what to say because of the way he had acted this morning. She wanted to apologize to the blonde but just could not bring herself to do it. Naruto skipped the pleasantry and relayed the message to her. Honestly, he didn't know why he liked her. She was always nasty to him, belittling him. Then it hit him like a slap in the face. He had missed what was right in front of his face. Hinata. She was the only one who was always there for him. She shared his sorrow, sadness and despair as well as his happiness, whatever little he had. She always managed to make him smile and bring him back up. He sighed, one of these days I need to tell her my feelings before it's too late. Naruto was leaning against the door to Sasuke's house. As Sasuke approached, he noticed Naruto waiting for him casually. What does the dobi want? Maybe he came to talk. Maybe he came to apologize for this morning. Nah, I doubt that. Why would he want to talk to me? He walked right up to Naruto and arched an eyebrow questioningly. He kept his calm and indifferent mask on, but inside he was worried, or was it relief that the dobi hadn't done anything stupid. Meet everyone in training ground 7 in an hour. With that said, Naruto started to walk off. He didn't want to hang around waiting for Sasuke to throw some insult at him. Naruto thought they were friends, and in truth Sasuke was one of his precious people. Hey dobi. Whack. Sasuke was left standing there alone with smoke billowing around from the shadow clone. Sasuke smirked, that was for making me worry so much, dobi. Naruto received the memories of all his clones. He sighed when he received the memory of the punch. Figures that Tem would do something like that, anything to show that he was superior, doesn't matter who he stepped on the way. The hour was ticking by, and every second that passed, Naruto was becoming more nervous. How do I tell them? What will they say? How will they react? Would they hate me or accept me? Get a grip, how can anyone ever accept a demon? Can I live with their hate? Yes. No, maybe. I don't know. I should just leave the village after I tell them. Yes, that is a possibility. These were the questions that kept going round and round in his mind, but no answers. He sat down in the lotus position to meditate. If he was going to go through this, then he had to calm down. He tried to control his breathing. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. He could feel the gentle breeze caressing his skin. He shut his eyes and focused on the noises that nature produced, the rustling of leaves on the trees, the birds chirping, and slowly started to become blank. Devoid of any thought or emotion, he felt peaceful. Drip, drip, drip was heard. Naruto opened his eyes. Great, he thought to himself. He took a few steps and came face to face with the 9 tails. What do you want? Naruto snapped. The demon narrowed his eyes. Naruto didn't mean to be so snappy, but he couldn't help it. Sorry. Didn't mean to cue. He placed his hands on the back of his head and smiled. The 9 tails or Kyuubi could tell that Naruto had a mask on. He sighed. You're really going to tell them? Kyuubi felt sorry for Naruto. The way that the villagers treated him, it wasn't called for. And even though he was a demon, he wasn't heartless. He somehow felt that he was kind of responsible for this. Naruto nodded. Kyuubi could tell that Naruto was nervous and he was emanating fear. Usually the blonde was not this quiet when they met. Don't worry, kid. If they are truly your friend and they care for you, then they will stay by your side. A flicker of hope glistened in Naruto's eyes, but it quickly vanished. They don't already like me. Just imagine when I tell them I have you sealed inside me. Kyuubi knew that Naruto put himself down, but usually he would bounce back up. He sighed. If truly they are friends, then they would stay, hopefully. Why the depressed tone? When you told the weird female she was okay with it, Kyuubi tried to reason with him. He had forgotten the weird female's name who had white eyes. Naruto glared at him. Her name is Hinata. And I know that she was not everyone is the same, Naruto responded, recalling the time he told Hinata and her reaction. Exactly my point, Kit. Just because the villagers hate you doesn't mean your friends will. Kyuubi wanted to reassure him that everything would be alright. And you know you still have me. He tried to lighten the gloomy mood Naruto was in, but he failed miserably. Yeah, I know. Thanks, Q. You're probably my only constant friend, Naruto said gratefully. Which was in fact the truth. Even though Kyuubi was the bane of his problems, he was grateful that the fox had been there for him through thick and thin. You should head back now, Kit, Kyuubi informed him. Naruto nodded. The Uchiha has been observing you for a long time now. Kyuubi smiled devilishly and bid him farewell. Sasuke stood leaning against a tree observing Naruto. He looked so peaceful. I didn't know the Dobi could still for this long. Naruto was aware that Sasuke was there and he was the only one so far. He didn't make a move, he just sat there. He wasn't ready to face them yet, as much as he told himself. 15 minutes later, Sakura entered the training ground and immediately headed towards Sasuke. He groaned inwardly. What is going on, Sasuke-kun? She asked, trying to fill the silence and get a reaction out of the stoic Uchiha. However, it was all in vain, as Sasuke just ignored her. If the Dobi was planning to do something stupid, then he would beat it out of him. He was not going to lose another precious person at any cost. Next to come were Team 8 with Kurene. They nodded in greeting to each other and waited patiently, not disturbing the silence. Team 10 along with Asuma came, followed by a very noisy and excited group of Konohamaru and Core, who instantly fell silent upon seeing Naruto sitting there so calm and serene. They had never seen this side of Naruto before. To them he was still the kid that played ninja with them and taught them cool techniques and jutsus. To say that everyone was surprised to see these children was an understatement. Hey Uncle Asuma, what's wrong with boss? Konohamaru asked. There was confusion written all over Asuma's face. He shrugged his shoulder to indicate that he didn't know. He looked at his team. What, you didn't know that Naruto spends time with your nephew playing ninja and teaching them? Shikamaru asked incredulously. Asuma's eyes widened. He was not aware that the blonde was so close to his nephew. Kakashi was the next one to arrive and everyone gasped in surprise. They all knew from Team 7 that Kakashi was a chronic late comer. What? He asked. Honestly, he didn't know what was so surprising. Kakashi turned up on time, Asuma said. His eyes had become white as saucers. He rubbed his yes to see if he was seeing things. Ino, pinch me, I think that I am dreaming. Ino chuckled along with Shikamaru, and Choji was still busy munching on his chips. Kakashi whipped out his book and started to read it. Asuma went over to poke Kakashi to see if he was really real. Kakashi gave him a glare and Asuma stopped poking him. You're actually on time for once. Asuma exclaimed. Kakashi sighed. Really, was his lateness so bad that when he did make the effort to make it on time, people would react like this? Well, I thought a change is in order, Kakashi lazily replied. He didn't want to enlighten everyone that he was feeling guilty for not noticing Naruto acting strange and then his outburst this morning. He wanted to rectify things, but everyone did not need to know that. With all the teams assembled at the training ground, everyone was silent, waiting for the blonde. Everyone had their own speculations as to what was going on, but they did not voice it. Troublesome, Shikamaru thought. he is going to reveal his secrets to these idiots, being the lazy genius nothing went past him. Sasuke was still observing the blonde. He would wait patiently and wait for Naruto to tell them what the hell was going on, no matter what it was. Hinata on the other hand was worried. She was so nervous that she could not stop twiddling her index fingers. What if Naruto tell them his secrets? How would they react? If their actions hurt Naruto, then she would never forgive any one of them, and she would make sure that they suffered as much as they made Naruto suffer. She prayed silently to any god or deity that would listen to her that all went all. The people that Naruto called friends would see past the burden and see the real him. The one that had stole her heart. They were abruptly broken from their musing when they heard someone clearing their throat. They looked over, and there near Naruto stood none other than the third Hokage. "Hey Grandpa, what are you doing here?" Konohamaru asked. He was worried that Naruto had done something really bad, that the Hokage had come to punish him. "Why is Naruto Nisan acting all weird?" the usually Kate and shy Mogu asked, worry clearly visible on her face. "Whatever he did, Hokage-sama, well, talk to him and sort it out," Udon said courageously. "Don't punish him, Grandpa," Konohamaru pleaded. Naruto had this conversation, and it touched his heart that these three kids that he played around with would care for him so much. He felt a lump forming in his throat, but he pushed it back. He would not cry. The assembled group was shocked that these three would do almost anything for Naruto. When did they become so close? "You'll find out soon enough," the Hokage informed them. He tapped Naruto on the shoulder to make his presence known. Naruto let out his breath, opened his eyes and stood up. He had his eyes trained on the ground, and he thought that his heart was going to come out of his chest cavity with the way that it was beating so hard and fast. A bead of sweat rolled down his forehead and his palms were sweaty. "Am I doing the right thing?" he asked himself. Everyone looked at Naruto. Instead of the hyperactive boy, in his place stood this new Naruto whose eyes conveyed sadness, sorrow and hurt. His expression was neutral, not giving away the inner turmoil that he was in. He looked up and saw everyone that was gathered. He shut his eyes again. He could not tell them that there was a demon inside of him. He was sure that they would hate him like the rest of the villagers. The Hokage squeezed his shoulders in reassurance. Naruto opened his eyes again. He would not back down now. He had made up his mind, and whatever happens, happens. Whether they hate me or not, I have to do this. If they do hate me, he shook his head to get rid of this thought. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. He remained silent, averting everyone's gaze. What you hear from Naruto is an S-class secret. The Hokage glowered at everyone, one of them, and let his words sink in. All the sensei's eyes went wide with shock. The genins did not have a clue as to what the Hokage was talking about, except for one lazy genius and one pupil-less girl. Naruto stared at all his friends, comrades' face, waiting expectantly for him to say something. Where do I start? What do I tell them? Well, let's start from the beginning, he thought. He pushed back the lump that was threatening to form in his throat, constricting his voice. First of all, I want to apologize to everyone that I have hurt with my behavior this morning. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. All of his friends stared back at him blankly. Is this what Naruto had called them? For they all thought. But in actual fact, Naruto felt guilty about the way that he had treated everyone. He was the one that was on the brink of having a nervous breakdown, and he took out all his pent-up anger out on them, which was not fair. No one spoke. They just waited patiently for him to continue. This must be the calm before the storm, thought Naruto. He tried to speak but was finding it extremely difficult. Doubts were clouding his mind. What will they think of me? How will they react when I tell them that I have a demon sealed in me? Should I even tell them? Come on, Naruto, you can do this. You never go back on your words, remember? Yeah, that is my ninja way. His internal debate ended with his rational side winning. He cleared his throat. He could feel his heart beating rapidly in his chest, but this is something that he had to do no matter what. He lowered his eyes and stared intently at the ground. I have called you all here to tell you about some things regarding myself. Naruto was surprised that his voice didn't falter or sound shaky and fail him altogether. Because right now inside he felt very light, as if the smallest breeze could topple him over. Sasuke narrowed his eyes at him. What was the Dobi talking about? What kind of secrets would he have been hiding? I'm sure that you have heard about the nine-tails demon fox that attacked the village. Naruto glanced at them nervously. They all nodded. It wasn't something that could be missed. It was written down in all the history books, and some of the ninja families retold the story to the younger generation, but missing some very vital information. Not shortly after that, the third Hokage had passed a law stating that the information was not to be disclosed to anyone but whoever listens. If not directly, they had other means to tell them, especially about the part of the demon child, and to stay away from him. The younger generation was not aware of this law, but the senseis were all aware of this. Why did the third Hokage even tell anyone that I contain the demon? Naruto thought bitterly to himself. It would have made my life that much easier if no one knew. He sighed and continued. He was not really comfortable telling this to people because he was scared of how they would treat him, not that the villagers treat him better or something. You guys probably have read and heard how the fourth had defeated the nine tails. Naruto hesitated and shut his eyes. He didn't want to think that his father, his hero, could not beat the nine tails. But he did the next best thing that would ensure the villagers lived. He could clearly see his father the way that he had seen him in the pictures. I wonder how he was. Would my childhood be better if he had been around? I know that I am being selfish, but then again, have I ever got what I wanted? No, it was a simple answer. I wonder how Mum was. How does it feel like to be loved unconditionally, to be held in a warm embrace after a long hard day? What has this got anything to do with you, Naruto? Naruto was jolted out of his depressing thoughts by Kiba's impatient question. Patience was not Kiba's forte, and he just wanted to hear what Naruto had to say and be on his way. Naruto took big gulps of air. He tried to slow down his rapidly beating heart. His knees felt like jelly, and it was surprising that they had not given way yet. This is it, Naruto. Now comes the hard part. Naruto took a deep breath, several pairs of eyes trained solely on him, trying to unmask him. Well, you see that? His mouth had gone dry, he licked his lips to moisten them. You see that? That is only half the truth. Naruto could not help the stutter that had managed to make its way into his speech. Many eyes widened in surprise. Naruto had officially lost his mind, they thought. What is that Naruto idiot saying? Sakura thought amusingly. What are you talking about, idiot? Kiba snapped at him. Naruto kept his gaze lowered. Any other time had Kiba spoken to him in that manner, he would have thrashed him, but the situation called for Naruto to calm and cool. This was something he was far from feeling. Yeah, how do you know that? Ino was fuming. Naruto was the dead last. What did he know about these things? As far as she could remember, he had mostly slept through all the academy lessons. This is some prank to get attention that he is pulling, and we are playing right into his hands. This is interesting, thought Sasuke. He started to connect the dots. Naruto was quite close to the Hokage. They had a granddad and almost grandson relationship. Maybe Naruto had been privy to information that they didn't know about. But that was a good question. What does this have anything to do with the Dobi? Because the nine-tailed demon fox could not be destroyed, Naruto has regained his composure and answered calmly. Everyone was silent. The fourth could not destroy the nine tails, so he sealed the beast, he continued. This was part of the truth that had dreaded the most. But Nisan, what has this got anything to do with you? Konohamaru's innocent question sent shivers down Naruto's spine. He braced himself for the inevitable. Well, you see. Naruto could not continue. He was sure that he came to terms with his emotions, but he was wrong. I guess accepting it to yourself is totally different to accepting it in front of people. Spill it out, Naruto. Kiba was starting to get irritated. Honestly, just get on with it, he thought. Can't wait around all day. Well, you see. For the ceiling to work, he took in a deep breath. His stomach was doing somersaults. and his lungs were fighting to keep oxygen inside of him. For the sealing to work, the fourth needed a newborn baby whose chakra coils had not developed. Naruto felt as though he was going to be sick, but his chance to look at all of them and could see the confusion written all over their faces. He was not surprised. When he first learned of the truth, he had time believing everything, which was until he met the demon fox in his mindscape. That baby. That baby was me. There, he had said it. It was out in the open now. There was no way that he could take those words back even if he wanted to. He lowered his eyes. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. The sea of emotion that welled up inside him was threatening. His eyes was stinging from the unshed tears. When he had decided to tell everyone his truth, he didn't realize that accepting this truth would be so emotionally draining on him. He didn't want to see the disgusted looks that his friends would give him. The rest of them stood stock still, deathly silent. Had they heard it right? Naruto had the nine-tailed demon fox sealed inside of him. They all looked at the Hokage to confirm what they had just heard. Hinata let out a breath that she didn't know she had been holding. Naruto had told everyone his secret. His fear was out in the open. She admired his courage. If she were in Naruto's position, she would never be able to go through with what he just did. This made her resolve to better herself, to become even stronger, to be worthy for him. Sasuke's fists went slack from as the words sank in. The Dobi had the nine-tailed demon fox sealed within him. He had a freaking demon sealed in him. That's why they all hate him. The villagers, the glares, the hushed comments about the demon. That's why. Why didn't I see it before? Because Naruto is a master at masking the truth. Now that he knew Naruto's secret, his problems seemed like nothing compared to Naruto's. True, he had a difficult life because Itachi had massacred his clan, but Naruto had been condemned to a life of suffering from the moment that he was born. Whoever is sitting upstairs and running the show, sure has a twisted sense of humor. He's opened his heart to all, thought Shino. We could easily make or break him. That was a risky move, but I'll have to wait and see how this unfolds. Everything had become deathly silent after Naruto had revealed the secret. You could hear a pin drop, the birds overhead stopped chirping, and even the breeze stopped rustling the leaves. It was as if time itself had stopped. Naruto had not dared to look at anyone out of fear, but this suspense was killing him. He did not know what they were going to say or do. Actually, he didn't want how he was feeling. Was he relieved that he told everyone about his worst fear? He remembered from long ago, the Hokage had told him that by sharing your fears, sorrow and sadness lessens the burden. Honestly, he didn't know what the old man was talking about. His fear didn't lessen and he was feeling more agitated than before. He lied. He took a big gulp of air, trying to fill his lungs that were on the verge of collapsing. Slap! To resounding sound was the only thing that broke the deathly silence. Everyone looked around to see what had happened. They shocked. Very much shocked. There stood Sakura with her hand to her red cheek with tears streaming down her face. In front of her stood a very angry and pissed off Uchiha with his hands still raised. Next to her stood the other shock. Ino had her hand to her cheek, but unlike Sakura, she was gaping with her mouth hanging open, staring at the person who had struck her. There stood shy little Hinata, furious, expression as cold as Sasuke's. What just happened, they all thought. You two are just like the villagers. Hinata exploded with rage at Sakura and Ino, who were too shocked to say anything. Tears streamed down Hinata's face. She was hurting for Naruto. That was the one reaction that he had feared the most. She glared at the two girls. Naruto is not the monster, but people like you are, she continued venomously. If looks could kill, then Sakura and Ino would be dead by now. Hinata wanted to make sure they understood what she wanted to say. Before you call someone else monster, maybe you should look at yourself. She paused. She needed to get her breath back from keeping in the sobs that threatened to spill over. People like you don't deserve to live. Hinata spat out. She spun on her heels and took off before anyone could even say anything else. She had to find Naruto and quick. Please God, let him be okay. Her chest hurt and throat constricted, making breathing even more difficult as various scenarios played through her mind. Sasuke-kun, you slapped me. Sakura looked up to meet the disgusted expression of Sasuke. It wasn't the actual slap that hurt, it was more the fact that Sasuke had slapped her. Hinata's right. Naruto is not the monster, you are, he spat out. You call yourself Kunyachis, yet you can't even distinguish the difference between an container and the contained. He turned to the Hokage. Could you please tell us more about Naruto's secret? He wanted to know everything. It must have been really hard for the Dobi to reveal a secret such as this, but it was very vague by his standards. The Hokage sighed and looked at everyone else just to confirm that they wanted to hear it as well. Frankly, it was not placed to speak about it, but in order for Naruto to heal, his friends needed to know about the hard life that Naruto had to go through. They all nodded. They wanted to know more as well. To them, Naruto was not a bad kid. Yeah, he was loud and exceptionally happy at all times, but they didn't not hate him. In fact, he had the capabilities of bringing the best out of them. They wanted to know how it all happened and why. Meanwhile, Sakura and Ino shared a side glance to see how the other one was faring. Truthfully, they felt ashamed of themselves. The Hokage sighed again, which he seemed to be doing a lot lately. Great, this just gets more complicated by each second. Maybe it should have remained a secret. But this is for Naru-chan. For him, I would do this 1,000 and more time over. The Hokage thought to himself. Naruto had found a cave that was within the forest. He sat there with tears streaming down his face. His chest felt so tight that it suffocated him. His heart and soul was broken into so many irreparable pieces. He felt so down and depressed that the world was collapsing around him and the darkness overtaking him. This feeling is worse than when the villagers hate me and glare at me. He thought to himself. No, this feeling is worse than the times when the villagers used to torture me and beat me up. At least that was only physically pain that I felt, but this, it's like my heart has literally broken and I don't know what to do. I thought that they were my friends. He closed his eyes, but the horrified expression would not leave him. He opened his eyes instantly, but still he could not get the image out of his mind. Was it just me thinking that they were my friend? Was I just kidding myself that a monster like me could ever have friends and comrades? He felt so down that he just wished the ground would open up and swallow him whole. He did not have to face anyone then. Naruto has had a very hard life. I can't even begin to imagine what the suffering physically and emotionally he went through. The Hokage had a pained expression, remembering all the times Naruto had been in hospital when the villagers had beaten and tortured, leaving him to die in the streets. Yes, it's true that the fourth sealed the nine-tailed demon fox within Naruto, but let me make it clear to you that Naruto is not the fox, he is only the container. The Hokage emphasized that part so that the younger generation would not be under any misconceptions. For that reason alone, all the villagers hated him. They all gasped when they heard that. Surely there must have been some sign that Naruto was not happy, but there wasn't, and even if there was, did anyone care to notice? But Naruto was always happy and bubbly, never letting anything affect him. They beat him and tortured him until he was practically dead. The Hokage spat out hatefully. His killer intent rose and everyone present was paralyzed by it, especially the younger ones who never saw the old man become so angry. But why would they do that, Grandpa? Konohamaru was having a hard time believing that. Naruto never showed any signs of being beaten and was always happy. He couldn't believe that his happy-go-lucky boss was this sad, and it made him even sadder thinking that he did not do anything to help him. A scapegoat. All eyes turned towards Shikamaru. The three younger ones were still confused. As were some of the mature one like Kiba and Choji, who had actually stopped eating for once to everyone's surprise. Sakura and Ino looked guilty. They had not meant to call Naruto a monster and it just came out. They had from their parents and other parents telling kids to stay away from Naruto because he was a monster, but truly deep down in their heart they did not believe that he was a monster. In fact, the blonde had become their friends in no time. Many ninjas and civilians lost their lives that day, their loved ones. Konohamaru-chan, they all thought that Naruto was the fox reborn. That's why They all thought that Naruto was the demon itself, the Hokage explained. He could see the day as clear as it happened only a few moments ago. Naruto Nisan once told me that the Hokage is the strongest ninja in the village, and that they protect the village and its precious people. Does that mean that Naruto Nisan was not precious to you, Grandpa? Everyone looked at Konohamaru. They could not believe that this pipsqueak was questioning the Hokage. Konohamaru had a faraway look. He was remembering the time that he had challenged Naruto for the title of Hokage. Then Naruto had told him that the path to becoming Hokage was a hard one with no shortcuts. Being Hokage meant that you were the strongest ninja, ready to protect everyone precious to you at the cost of your own life. He had never forgotten those words and strived to work towards his goal just the way Naruto had taught him. Hinata was running as fast as she could with her Byakugan activated, trying to find Naruto. Even the faintest trace had her running in that direction. But she was well aware that it was futile because Naruto was a master at stealth. But still she could not give up. Naruto had been through so much already in his life. If could I would take all the pain unto myself for you, Naruto-kun, she thought to herself. She remembered the first time that Naruto had told about him. She had been following him as usual and they ended up in the forest. Naruto had tricked her in order for her to come out. She chuckled at the memory. Naruto had always been aware that she had followed him, but he never let her catch on. From then on they became friends. He didn't want to keep any secrets from and so told him. She hugged him and reassured him. That was the first time that she saw a real smile from Naruto, not a fake one that he always displayed to the world. From then on they met in the forest whenever they could and spent time there. The forest. Of course, the one place that Naruto would go to was the forest because no one knew about their hideout. Hinata changed direction and headed towards the forest. Hang on in there, Naruto-kun, I'm on my way. Why didn't you do anything about it, Grandpa? Why didn't you stop the villagers? Konohamaru shouted at the Hokage accusingly. Everyone had similar thoughts to Konohamaru apart from the grown-ups who were aware how the Hokage's intervention had failed. The Hokage looked at his grandson. Tears were streaming down his face. I made some laws, stating that no one was allowed to talk about this incident to the youngest generation, especially Naruto. The Hokage looked away shamefully. They all understood now why the Kyuubi topic was not so popular amongst the youngsters. They also understood all the cryptic comments that the grown-up would say about Naruto and why parents told their children to stay away from him. But that wasn't enough. The parents told their children to stay away from Naruto. They hurt him physically and emotionally at every opportunity they got. How he wished he wasn't the Hokage, so that he could extract his revenge from those idiot villagers. They all fell silent again, each in his or her own thoughts. I deserved that slap, thought Sakura. I am so sorry, Naruto, for treating you so bad. No wonder he hates us. We just ended up like all the villagers. Ino was having similar thoughts as well. Why hi him? Sakura was having a hard time getting the words out. She was crying so hard that the words were getting stuck in her throat. That one question was imperative. Many of them had wondered why Naruto. Surely there have been many babies born on the same night as the Kyuubi attack, then why specifically choose him? Well, now that the cat is out of the bag, the Hokage thought, but for his protection I must not divulge this information. All the senseis, however, knew who exactly Naruto was and what his heritage is, but they remained silent. It was not their place to talk. For Naruto's protection, this information can't be made public yet, the Hokage stated formally and started to walk away. Yes, he needed a short walk to clear his mind before he went to face his paperwork. A short chuckle stopped him mid-stride and he turned around, eyeing none other than Shikamaru Nara, the lazy genius. What is so funny, you lazy bum? Ino shouted, irritated that Shikamaru could find anything amusing in this situation. Everyone looked at the pair in bewilderment. You guys sure are blind, considering you go to the Hokage Tower every day, collecting missions and giving mission reports, he said coolly. He found it quite amusing that no one noticed before, and their expression of a deer caught in the headlights was priceless. The Hokage and all the senseis paled visibly at that statement. How is it that a genin fresh out of the academy managed to figure that out when majority of the people in the village including some of the ninjas didn't have a clue? Well, he is a genius after all, they thought. Shikamaru Nara, explain yourself now. Ino was getting fed up of trying to figure out Naruto. She wanted straight answers, then they could go and apologize to him. Have you guys never noticed the pictures on the wall? Troublesome, he didn't want to explain. That would mean he would be wasting his breath, but seriously, couldn't they even guess with all the hints that he was giving them? Sasuke pondered this for a moment. What did the Nara mean by looking at the pictures on the wall? What is in it? He recalled from memory whose pictures were on the wall. There was a picture of the first Hokage, then the second Hokage, the first Hokage's brother. Then there was the third Hokage, and last but not least the fourth Hokage. Then it hit him like a brick in the head and he let an unintentional gasp. Because Uchihas don't gasp. Everyone turned their attention towards Sasuke to see what had caused the reaction. Thank you, the Uchiha has figured it out. I'll be spared from the interrogation. The Uchiha can do that now, Shikamaru thought with a smile. He's the fourth Hokage's son, Sasuke whispered. If they weren't listening to him intently, then they would have missed what he said. They were all very much surprised at this little piece of information. What? Kiba and Konohamaru shouted at the same time, mouths still hanging open. Have you noticed the similarities between them? Sasuke said. As he learned more about Naruto, his disgust for the villagers and their behavior increased drastically. How could they do that to him? They all thought. He is the son of their hero, the one who defeated the nine-tailed demon fox, and this is how the villagers repay his sacrifice, by torturing his only son. The fourth Hokage sacrificed himself and condemned his son's future for these ungrateful people. Yes, it's true that they didn't know about Naruto and his heritage, but still, considering that he kept the biggest threat to mankind at bay all the time, it was horrendous, most of them were thinking. I wonder if these people realize what would happen if Naruto ever decided to take revenge on them using the powers of the Nine Tails, thought Shino. They wouldn't even know what hit them. But knowing Naruto, he would not do such thing, he is too kind for that. Yes, they have the same eyes and the same hair. Sakura remembered seeing the picture of the fourth so many times but never paid attention to it. So Ino has blonde hair. Kiba exclaimed, still not believing it. How can the class dead last be the son of the fourth Hokage? I think that I would know if he was related to me, stupid. She snapped at Kiba and whacked him on the head to get her point across. That shut Kiba up immediately. We need to split up and find the Dobi. Sasuke took command of the group and directed them to search for Naruto in different sectors of the village. They all followed his orders without complaining. Each of them had their headsets with them from previous missions to let one another know if they found the blonde. With that plan, they all scattered. The senseis and the Hokage stood in the training ground speechless. This generation of genins were in a league of their own, they all thought. What's the status, team? Came the irritated voice of the last Uchiha through the headsets of the other genins. The rookies had been looking for their blonde for hours on end with no luck at all. Negative. Shikamaru's team responded. This team consisted of the new generation of the Ino-Shika Cho trio, and they were responsible for searching the market district. Negative. Shino was the next one to respond. Their search did not produce any results as well. His team consisted of Kiba and Akamaru only, as Hinata had gone Mia like Naruto. Sasuke sighed. Why was it that the one time he wanted to find the Dobi, he was impossible to locate him? Usually when he wanted to avoid the Dobi, he was all around. Figure's life was a joke. Where the hell did Boss 2? Shouted Konohamaru. Everyone cringed. Not so loud, little people. Barked Sasuke. Kiba's growl could be heard over the headsets. Troublesome. Shikamaru sighed. Ino smacked him over the head. He glared at her, but it was ineffective. Say troublesome one more time, lazy, and I'll make your life troublesome. Ino snapped at him. Uchiha, why the hell did you give these brats the headsets? They are causing me to have an earache. Kiba growled. If he was even remotely close to those brats, he would rip Theseus headsets of them. But who said he can't extract his revenge once the search was over? He smirked evilly. How the hell are they going to communicate then, dumbass? Sasuke replied, rolling his eyes. Seriously, I think Akamaru possesses more brain cells than dog breath. Even though they may be still children, they were still involved in the search. And the way that they had talked to him indicated that they had a really strong bond with the Dobi, so who was he to disrespect their friendship? After all, they came in many sizes and forms and most certainly unusual circumstances. Who you calling a dumbass? I'll kick your. Kiba shouted. He was clenching and unclenching his fist, trying to control his anger. Shino just shook his head. How is it that his feral friend could get so riled up in a short amount of time? He would never be able to fathom that mystery of life. Guys, Sakura shouted, shutting everyone up for good. That girl could be well scary when she wanted to be. We're losing focus here. We need to find Naruto pronto. She snapped. The quicker they find Naruto, the better. Then maybe she can make amends for all the trouble and suffering that she had caused him knowingly and unknowingly. Although Sasuke-san is right. I think Akamaru has more brains than you, Kiba-san, Konohamaru commented. Sasuke smirked. Why, you little pieces of. Kiba was cut short from his ranting and raving by Shino's bugs covering his mouth. Sasuke tuned out from the rest of the conversation as he remembered his encounter with the Konohamaru Corps after Naruto had left. Flashback. We need to split up and find the Dobi, Sasuke commanded. Nobody dared to object him. They were speechless as the sheer authority and power that Sasuke was emanating. Use the headsets to relay information to each other. With that, Sasuke barked out teams and sections to each group like a seasoned Anbu captain. Everyone dispersed, leaving only Sasuke and the Konohamaru Corps standing in the training field. He looked at the children. They looked disheartened and a sad expression on their face. Tears were gathered at the corners of the girl's eyes, but she was trying to hold them in. Sasuke was not particularly fond of children, therefore he had no idea how to interact with them. True that he had seen Naruto hang out with all of them numerous times, but he never joined in. He sighed. What's wrong, brats? Konohamaru glared at him. That took Sasuke by surprise. The brat could pull of a glare as good as the Uchiha. He smirked, and that made Konohamaru even mad. Who are you calling brats, moron? He snapped back. Moegi and Udon looked back and forth at both of them in fear. Konohamaru-chan, what are you doing? Moegi whispered, eyes still trained on Sasuke. It was not unknown to them that the Uchiha could be temperamental. If he loses his cool, then I wonder what he will do to us, and even Naruto-Nisan is not here to help us, she thought fearfully. What? Konohamaru shouted. He was beyond angry, and it wasn't Sasuke's words that caused it. He could beat us to pulps, in the blink of an eye, Konohamaru-chan. Even though they all knew it, Udon decided to point this fact out, as his friend could be a blockhead sometime. Sasuke listened to their conversation. Why the hell am I wasting my time with these brats? So what? Just because we are children does not mean that he can talk to us anyhow. Konohamaru pointed his finger accusingly at Sasuke. Now where had he seen this before? Sasuke seemed to be having a deja vu, and then it clicked. The Dobi was always doing this to prove his point, and the speech was something that Naruto would say. Konohamaru acted like a mini Naruto minus the orange outfit. And why on earth are they so hell-bent on recognition? Sasuke thought to himself with a ghost of a smile. And just because we are children does not mean that we will stand by and watch Naruto-Nisan disappear. He shook his fist at Sasuke to prove his point. I'll go to the end of the world to save my friend. Konohamaru stated with finality. His loyalty and determination is the same as the Dobi's, Sasuke thought. Well, who knew that the Dobi could ever be such a good teacher? The will of fire, that's what the Dobi has passed on to these brats. Sasuke tried to speak, but he couldn't get a single word in as Konohamaru continued. Just because we are children, everyone thinks we're useless and get in the way, but let me tell you that this group is not backing down. So this is the main reason why this brat has the guts to stand here and yell at me. Even though he didn't say it out directly, his underlying message is that I gave the orders, therefore I'm the culprit. Not giving them any sectors to search for their friend. I didn't think that they would have such a strong bond with the Dobby, mind you. Guess I should have learned my lesson from the Dobby, never to underestimate anyone. He sighed. Well, let's see if I can do some damage control then. Okay brah. Little people, Sasuke stopped himself. True what Konohamaru had said, just because they were small and annoying doesn't mean he does not respect them. I've been hanging around with the Dobby for too long, he mused. Okay. I understand that you all want to help find Naruto, so you guys go to the Hokage Tower, the Anbu headquarters, and wherever else you think Naruto might be, Sasuke continued. Konohamaru looked up. He could not believe what Sasuke was saying. Are you serious or just making fools out of us? Sasuke looked at him. What is this kid? First he wants to help, and then when I say that he can, he doesn't believe me. Konohamaru took in Sasuke's confused expression. Well, you see, the only one that ever acknowledged us for us Naruto Nissen, the other only saw the honorable grandson or annoying little brats that could not be trusted with tasks. But Naruto Nissen treated us as equals, even though we know he is well beyond us in power, strength and knowledge. He never made us feel that we were inferior to him. He treated us like friends. Konohamaru finished his explanation and Sasuke understood their need to help find their friend. Although he doubted it that he could stop Konohamaru core even if wanted to. Okay. The three of them said simultaneously. Now that this is settled, I can finally leave. Sasuke started to walk off. He would check the surrounding forest first. Mr. Sasuke-san, Konohamaru shuffled embarrassed. Sasuke just stood there waiting. How do we contact us if we find the boss? He dared to glance up at Sasuke. He was really angry before that he wasn't involved in the search for Naruto and therefore he had blurted everything out, but now that he was calm and could think, he realized that he had shouted at Sasuke Uchiha. He was one scary guy, didn't matter what the boss said about him. Sasuke looked at them questioningly. Didn't I just tell the rest of the team to use their headsets if they found anything? He thought were these brats in La La Land when he said that. Konohamaru looked at Sasuke expectantly. He could tell from Sasuke's expression that he thought they were dumb. But hey, they were still in the academy. Where the hell were they supposed to find headsets? They didn't have clearance from the Hokage to use one. When Sasuke still failed to answer, Konohamaru thought he would enlighten him. Mr. Sasuke-san, we are still in the academy, you know, Sasuke sighed. Of course these brats were still in the academy, therefore they didn't have any headsets. He looked at them, the determination that shone in their eyes amazed them. Alright, to the ninja shop then, Sasuke lead the way with the Konohamaru core happily following. You guys owe me one, big style, Sasuke let a genuine smile appear. Hey, those guys are not so bad, he thought, if you get to know them. Sure, they can be annoying like the Dobby, but what was new there? Unknowingly they had gained another precious person, like Naruto, one who would not hesitate to give his life up. End of flashback. Naruto-kun. Hinata peeked into the little cave. Naruto had shown her this once and told her that he often came here to clear his mind. They met there sometimes, but not often as Hinata would like. No answer. She called again, this time a little louder, but still no answer. The cave itself was dark and bare and it was kind of cold. Whenever Naruto and Hinata came, they would bring some food and have some light in there so that they could see and also to keep selves warm, but today the cave was cold and lifeless. She was just about to leave, when she caught a glimpse of orange in the far corner. Had she not been looking closely, she would have completely missed it. Her heart stopped beating and her breathing became labored. After all the time that she had been searching, she had finally found Naruto. She went to him and crouched low and headed toward the unmoving Naruto. She went slowly as not startle him. She didn't know what he would do once he saw her. At the moment his mood and emotion were all over the place and so were really hard to predict. As she neared him, she observed him closely. He looked lifeless. His eyes were open but they were distant and unfocused. There was no spark in them. She noticed that there were tear streaks staining his cheeks. He's been crying, thought Hinata. That was something that she could not believe. In all the years that they had known each other, she had never seen him cry. He always was happy and smiling. She felt guilty for noticing his sorrow and being there for him. She wanted at that moment to take all his pain away from him, to support him like he had been there for her countless times. She touched his cheek. It felt cold. Wonder how long he has been sitting here. She touched his cheek again, hoping that he would realize that she was there, but still there was no movement. Naruto was not responding at all. Naruto-kun, can you hear me? Hinata stuttered. She had nearly come over her nervousness around Naruto, but seeing him like this, she reverted back to her old self. Please Naruto-kun, don't leave me, she whispered in his ears, teardrops falling silently as she embraced him to give some sort of warmth. She wanted him to feel her love through her embrace. Don't do this, please. I know that I have never told you, but I love you and I don't want you to go. She knew that she would never have the courage to say that him when he was conscious, but at least she could say it now and plan later. However, even this confession was not enough to bring him back from the depths of darkness that had consumed him. Hinata was starting to panic. She didn't know what she should do in order to help Naruto. She was no medic nin after all. Naruto's mindscape. There's no point now. No more. One more day. I give up. Naruto was just lying there. No thought, no emotion, no feeling. He could tell that the darkness was taking over and he wasn't fighting it. In fact, he welcomed the darkness with open arms. After all these years of pretending, I think I'll rest in peace now. He closed his eyes, ready to slip off to wherever someone went after they die. However, his peace was disturbed. Kit, snap out of it, please. Kyuubi shouted. Naruto looked around upon hearing Kyuubi's voice. He sighed and opened his eyes reluctantly. He noticed that this mindscape of his was different from the times that he would visit Kyuubi. This was all white and bare. It felt as if he was on death's door itself, and one more step and he would find his release. He looked around to see if he could catch a glimpse of the great nine-tailed demon fox, but to his disappointment he did not. My mind must have mentally blocked everything out, thought Naruto. There was no way that Kyuubi would get through this barrier. Unsure of if he heard Kyuubi or not, Naruto called out to him. Kyuubi. Kit, don't give up. It's not like you to give up that easily. Kyuubi was pleading with Naruto. It was strange considering the demon fox was pleading with a mere human not to give his life up. But then again, Kyuubi had not seen a purer soul than Naruto's, and because of that he deserved to live more than the scums that called themselves villagers and shinobis. What's the point, Q? No one cares, Naruto barely whispered. They think I'm a monster, and maybe they are right. After all, I was the cause of so many deaths. He could clearly hear the words and see the past things that the villagers did to him, and then when he had told his so-called friends about it. Kyuubi growled. He had lived every moment through with Naruto and experienced every emotion that he went through. I don't want to go on, it would be better this way, Naruto concluded. Don't you ever say that you are a monster, Kyuubi spat out angrily. You were never the cause of anyone's death. I was, and if people cannot see the difference between a prisoner and a prison, then that is their problem. Kyuubi's voice softened a little. Kit, you deserve more than this. Kyuubi was angry. Naruto could feel the anger coming off him. But Kyuubi was not angry at Naruto but more at himself for causing Naruto so much pain. No, Q, I'm done pretending. There won't be another day. Naruto sighed. He would finally get his release. His freedom. I'll undo the seal for you, Q, but only if you promise me not to hurt anyone. Naruto had talked to Kyuubi about this on numerous occasions. He knew that the demon's life force was bound to his, which meant that if Naruto died, then so did the demon fox. Are you out of your mind, Kit? Kyuubi roared. He was livid with anger. If he were to roam free on this world, the first thing that he would do is make Konoha pay slowly and painfully like they had made the Kit suffer. The last time he was free, he was under the control of some masked man, but this time he would show them what an enraged demon fox could do and how he extracted his revenge. No, Kyuubi, I can't take you with me. You have been my one and true friend. You have always been there for me. I can't condemn death on you." He really wanted Kyuubi to be free and have a life of his own. He could honestly say that he was the one friend that had stuck by him through thick and thin. They shared each other hopes, despair, their sadness and the little happiness that they had experienced. Ignoring the fact they did not have a choice in this, but they did become good friends. They don't all hate you, Kit. Just think about this. Kyuubi was running out of options. Pleading and anger was not working on Naruto. Why is he so stubborn? Kyuubi tried to reason with him again. I don't see the point anymore, It better if I just disappear. Naruto just didn't see the point in living and making other people suffer by surviving. He had let go of that thought the day that the demon fox was sealed in him. He was just playing a game of pretense and now it was finally over. What about all the dreams that you have? To become Hokage and to protect everyone, Kyuubi pointed put. But personally he would rather rip all the villagers to pieces rather than protect them. Naruto should undo the seal and let him the great demon fox take over him, then he would show the villagers who was a threat and who was an ally. I let go of that dream a long time ago. I was just keeping up the act, in the faintest hope that things would change with another day, but they haven't, and no point in deluding myself about the things that would not come to pass. Kyuubi had a smirk in place. Sometimes Naruto talked like an wise old man trapped in the body of a child. Kyuubi sighed again. He seemed to be doing that a lot lately. There is no way that I am going to change his mind. He was just a stubborn piece of shit. Well, so be it, Kit. If you want to go, then I'd gladly follow you no matter where you go. I'd be honored to end my life with Naruto. He changed the meaning of being a prison and prisoner. He alone had the courage and the patience to change a demon fox. For that reason Kyuubi was glad that he was sealed within Naruto. He have to thank the bastard for doing him this favor. He choose well. Naruto whispered. There was some shouting in the background, but Naruto could not pinpoint where it was coming from. He strained his ears in concentration. Naruto, wake up. Naruto blinked several times trying to focus but not actually managing it. Suddenly he was being crushed by someone sobbing. He willed his mind to catch up to what was happening. Hinata. He realized that she was shaking. His shoulder was getting wet from all the tears that were flowing down her face. He waited patiently until Hinata calmed down enough. How did she find me? He thought I wasn't aware that she cared for me this much. Hinata, are you okay? Hinata nodded, but she still did not let go of him. I'll hold him until he stays, she thought to herself. Naruto-kun. Don't leave me, she whispered, barely audible, but Naruto heard it loud and clear. Hinata moved out of the embrace and looked at Naruto. His eyes didn't sparkle, but at least they were looking at her. There's no point staying here, Hinata. Everybody hates me. Naruto averted his gaze, not wanting to show Hinata how much pain he was in. Hinata lifted his chin up towards her so that he met her eyes and could not move his head. Not everyone does, Naruto-kun. Hinata stroked his cheek, feeling that his temperature was coming back to normal. Would she ever get to caress his cheeks ever like that again? Usually she was so shy that she would stumble over her own words, but right now all she wanted to do is feel him and make him understand that she was there for him. She doubted that she would have enough courage to tell him how she really felt, but right now this, holding him and feeling him, was enough. If death decided to come and take her this instant, then she would die happily. Naruto looked at her. She was beautiful. He wiped her tears with his thumb. Her skin felt soft like the petals of the lilac flower. They were sitting so close to each other that Naruto could feel her body heat through his clothes. His own heart was thumping so loud and fast that he was sure Hinata could hear it. He wished that she didn't notice this, for it would be hard to let then. Please, Naruto-kun, for me. She gazed at him pleadingly and his heart skipped a beat. How is it that she could stir these feelings in me, thought Naruto. Is this the feeling of love? But still no point in giving her false hope. I don't want to stay here anymore, he tried to make her understand. Yes, he wanted to protect everyone, but he could not live with all the hate. He made his mind up. He would leave the village and let everyone be at peace once and for all. He wanted to give up his life, but that was not going to happen anytime soon, and he was not a coward as to end his life with his own hands. More Kyuubi didn't deserve that punishment. I'm leaving this village, Hinata, he informed her. He started to move his head out of her grasp, but she held tight. Then I'm going with you, Hinata said, determined. She had no idea where she had got the courage from, but she did know one thing: Naruto would not suffer alone whether he liked it or not. But Hinata, what about? She put a finger to his lips to quieten him. Her heart was beating rapidly. Breathing coming in short pants. His lips felt soft under her fingers. And all she could think about was they would feel against her own lips. Wherever my life goes, I go, to hell with everything else. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. He knew that all her life Hinata was trying to show her father that she was good enough to be a Hyuga. But what he was not aware of was that this was all a pretense as well. All she ever wanted was to be worthy of him. Then he thought about what she said. Had she really said what I think she said? Hinata waited quietly. He was silent. I love you, Naruto Uzumaki. She tipped her head up to press a soft kiss on his lips. They were soft as she had felt them under her fingers. They tasted sweet. Naruto didn't know what to do. He was in shock. Hinata had just said that she loved him. Is that even possible? He felt her soft lips on his, and after a few seconds he responded back. It was a soft, sweet kiss, not demanding but just feeling the touch of each other, not like the one that he had with the Tem. This one he liked very much. Well, let's get going then, shall we? Naruto got up and Hinata followed. She'd be damned if she let Naruto go ever again. I'm sorry, Hinata. Naruto took her hand and led the way. It was nearing midnight when Naruto decided to come out.